Welcome to part two of why film is, photographic film by the way, why photographic film is more relevant than ever today in 2024. Now, given that I started my career, my photography path, more than a career at that time, during the days of only film, this seems like an odd statement. But the point here is that when you only have one choice, well, you really don't have any freedom of choice. There is only one option. And so it is impossible back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Well, the discussion about, what is more relevant about photography would have been pointless because there was no alternative. So the only alternatives you had at that time was basically saying, look, are you going to use small, medium, or large format photography? But film was the only thing. Now, when the digital juggernaut smashed through the entire photographic industry in the early 2000s and destroyed an entire section of our industry, right in the time of 2010, 2011, there was a perception that film was going to completely disappear. And that would have brought another, single option industry, which would have been terrible. Today, we are in a fantastic time. We have gone through the entire arc of digital, discovered the advantages and limitations. And now we have an industry, the photography industry, where we can do different things in different mediums and different options, different formats. And it is up to us to choose the right format for the job. It would have been terrible to have only digital because, by the way, as we demonstrated, digital only practically covers the 35 millimeter field. Medium format and large format, this kind of camera, we're going to talk about that pretty soon. Those two options, medium format and large format, are basically unavailable in the industry. So having multiple options is making a lot of sense. And film today allows us to do things that are impossible in the digital field. Now, let me talk about, for example, about a new discussion that I've seen popping up on YouTube quite frequently, which is, how many megapixels are enough for photography, or does it really matter to have, 100, 150 to 100 megapixels? Those questions are very valid, and it is clear that we have reached a point where we realize that with digital photography, which again is small format, 35 millimeter photography, there is a limit beyond which we just are in the territory of diminishing returns. And so when we are talking about 24, 30, 35 megapixels, yeah, that is pretty much the usable limit. We can have cameras with a higher number of megapixels, but really, do we really see the difference? And there are a lot of people who are saying, no, it's not worth it. It's not worth the aggravation. It makes perfect sense to me because we cannot cheat physics, okay? So there is a vast world out there, and the world is analog. Now, when we are looking at something with our eyes out there, there is, we might look at a beautiful sunset, for example. And there are so many tones there. There are so many gradations. You can look at the scene of nature, of mountains and trees and grass. There are a multitude of gradations there. And we are taking all that immense scene And through a lens, we are making converge into a little square rectangle inside the camera. It's a given that all that tonality is getting crushed and lost in good part when we are going to condense it in a very, very small space. It doesn't matter how many megapixels you have there. There is basically that tonality is gone. And that is why in photography, yes, size does matter, because we can have a larger surface, for example, a 6 centimeters by 7 centimeters, which is many times the area of 35 millimeter. We can have that surface and photograph the same exact scene, and we will see a much better capture of tones. If we use something like a large format camera with 4 by 5 or 8 by 10 in inches sheets of film, we are going to see a even more vast amount of tonality there. That is why certain photos that we see from the 70s, 80s, even from the 30s and 40s, give us that sense of depth, that sense of wonder sometimes, because we are looking at that and they seem so alive. The reason is that those photos, in my opinion, of course, those photos are presenting us with such a fantastic amount of tones, of gradations of tones, that it reflects more what we experience with our eyes. It's not a matter of detail or crispness or sharpness. It's really a matter of tonality. And those larger surfaces are only available to us today, in 2024 at least, through film. And then there is, of course, the magic of black and white film and the multitude of options that we have for developing it. It's an immense field. So let's take a look at this guy here, because this is the view camera, the large format camera. And the large format camera provides us with options that are not available otherwise. This camera here is still today, in 2024, the most advanced photographic system, bar none. How is that possible? Let's take a quick look at what the camera does. So this is what is called a view camera, or a large format camera, sometimes also called an optical bank. And this is the camera that was mostly used at the end of the 1800s all the way to the end of 1950s. Now, the funny thing is that this is the only film camera in active production today. Not this specific model, but in general, the view camera. And what I mean by that is that there is no production, almost no production at all, of professional 35 millimeter cameras. There is no production of medium format cameras like the Hasselblad, the Mamiya, the Bronica, and so on. There is one manufacturer of medium format camera that's, I think they're called Mercury, but I'm not sure about how those cameras work. And on the other hand, there are several manufacturers of view cameras all around the world. There are people who are making these in a very handmade, artisanal, beautiful pieces in Italy, in Croatia, and other parts of Europe. There is, of course, the Intrepid camera in the UK. So the view camera is the only film camera in production, in active production today, as a professional tool. I bought this camera here for about $350 with a lens. I have actually an exact, another one, almost an exact model of this one, for several reasons. And The way the view camera works is straightforward. That is one of the beautiful things about it, is that you can really understand how photography works. And this, the view camera, the large format camera, has features that are not found easily on any other camera. So let's take a quick look here. We have our lens. The lens actually includes also the shutter. You can see the speeds of the shutter here. There are no other controls in the back. In the back there is only a ground glass that we'll see in a second. And you'll see that there is a control here where we open. Let me see if I can, yeah, you can see it clearly. We are opening the shutter. Opening the shutter is fundamental because when we compose the image, we need to take a look at the image as it comes through the lens. So in a certain regard, the view camera is similar to a modern mirrorless lens. In fact, actually, let me show you one thing here. If we look inside, we see that there is nothing else but a piece of ground glass. Inside, there is just a bellows that is used to create a light-tight system. So the simplicity of the view camera is something that really appeals to a certain type of photographer. And so when we open the shutter, we let the light go through, and then that light will, let me see if I can just point it. Okay, let me turn off this light. Let me see. There you go. We are able to see the image in there. Now the image right now is blurred. Why is that? Because of course we are not in focus. We focus the camera by moving the elements called standards, and let's see, we're going to focus on that window too much. There you go. And the image is upside down and reversed, flipped left and right. So let's turn on the lights again. Now, this is interesting. Now, if I turn this light on, you see that the image is already difficult, much more difficult to see. And that is why we have a dark cloth many times, a little piece of cloth where the photographer removes all the glare outside and sees the image more clearly. It's different in the studio environment because in the studio we have more control. So basically this is, we open the shutter, we compose the image, we focus by moving these elements called the standards back and forth. There is a micro adjustment. Actually, let me just tilt the camera a tiny bit. There you go. So you'll be able to see this. That's a micro adjustment for precision. And when you're doing that, you're going to be looking at the ground glass and also using a loop to, like something like this, to magnify the image there. So the simplicity is incredible. This camera has a rotating back, so we can go from horizontal to vertical without tilting the camera. It's extremely convenient, especially because it keeps the focus plane exactly as it was before. What was in the center of the image is in the center of the image. So how do we load film in a camera like this? Where does it go? Well, first of all, film doesn't work in rolls on this camera, not in its native form. We will talk about that. But basically we have sheets of film. Okay, this is a test. This is a 4x5, you can see. So this is the negative, and it is truly humongous when you compare it against the 35 millimeter negative. And this is a quarter. By being 4x5, it's a quarter of the 8x10 size. So, and there are even much larger cameras that are even 20x24 cameras. But we're going to stick to what is commonly available. So how do we put this in the right place and we protect it? Well, the film is loaded in a holder like this. And so basically, you open this and place the sheets of film here. Okay, of course, that would be an unexposed sheet of film. Okay, and this needs to be done in complete darkness. So either in a complete dark room or more easily in using a changing tent. So you load one sheet here, one sheet there, and with the two sheets here, you can place the loader here. There you go. Then we remove the dark slide to expose the film, and that is why it's important to have closed the shutter at that point. Otherwise, we would be ruining the film. What is preventing us from doing that kind of mistake? Absolutely nothing. So, and plenty of times that has been done by yours truly and many others. So that is one of the downsides of the View camera. There are no safety measures. There's nothing that is blocking you from doing any kind of mistake. You have to be at all times very present with your mind and understand where you are. So we have we have inserted the film, we have removed the slide. Now, before doing all this, we should have cocked the shutter. The shutter needs to be loaded, prepared every time. We need to change our time. We change our exposure. So of course, we need to have this all metered in advance. And once we are there, of course, we are not seeing anything here. Okay? We see the frame before. Once we have the film in there, there is no seeing anything. That is why generally you'll see me when I use this camera standing right on the side and talking with the subject, talking with the person who is in front. And then when we are done, we are ready. There you go. You take the photo, then you put the slide, the dark slide back in. And now you can take the loader out. And if you want, you'll turn it. Now, I want you to see that there is a dark side of the dark slide and a light side. Generally, what I do is I use the white to say this is unexposed film. And once I expose the film, so we are going to take it out here. So here's the film. I expose it, then I flip the slide and reinsert it to signal that I have exposed this. Because in this case, when I take this loader, if it happens that it's being mixed up with others, and you need multiple loaders when you're going to a session, to a photo shoot, at a glance, I know which one is being exposed. There are two little hooks here that we can turn in this way to protect the loader from being exposed by mistake. This is pretty much the only safety measure that we have. Wonderful. So what is preventing me from doing a double or triple or quadruple exposure? Absolutely nothing. I can keep the film in there and take multiple exposures, and there is nothing that the camera does to stop that. So we can move the front stander side by side. We can swing in this way. We can also tilt the lens in this way. Why is that important? Well, again, when we are modifying the position of the front standard, we are actually changing the focus plane. The focus plane is always parallel to this. And so, imagine that you're extending this plane in this direction. So if I have a subject that is tilting their head toward the camera, then I can tilt my focus plane as well, so that I will see the eyes and the chin in focus. On the other hand, if I change the position of the rear standard, okay, let's open the iris again. Let me turn off these lights, and we are adjusting the focus on this. Let me see. There you go. You also see how the image expands and contracts. All right. So now what we can do is we can unlock the rear standard and move it sideways, for example. And this allows us to reframe the composition as we prefer. We want a little more of this side, great. We want a little more of that, great. We don't even need to move the camera. But we can also tilt this standard as well. So we can unlock it and we can tilt it. The tilting is, of course, creating a different perspective in the frame. And as we see, this part is getting extended. So for example, it can be, it's a trick that was used by Marlene Dietrich, the actress. She would extract her photographer to always tilt the rear standard a tiny bit to elongate her legs. There you go. So now you have, perspective manipulation in camera without any use of Photoshop, and it can be repeated over and over again. The other thing we can do is to move the standards up and down. And again, this can be used for many different situations where we actually recompose the scene very carefully without having to move the camera dramatically. Lastly, I want to show you a completely different configuration. We are still working with pretty much the same camera. This is my second copy, and this one has a 210 lens. The other one was a 135. Okay, so it's almost identical. The holders here are slightly different, still Omega view, and all the parts are interchangeable. But here is how we can use this camera with actually a roll of film. This is a 6x9 with actually the holder from the Mamiya Press camera. And so we can use the standard advancement of film here, very convenient. It is a smaller negative compared to 4x5, but believe me, 6x9 is pretty humongous. It's pretty big too. And this particular system is really ingenious because it allows us to look at the image here. We can, let's focus it here. Okay. So now you should be able to see, let me bring the camera a little closer to that. There you go. And the image is upside down. So that is a 6x9 view. Now let's turn on these lights for a second. So let's say that you have framed your subject here. You can see it directly on this ground glass. Then you close your shutter, and there is a button here on the side. And with this button, we just slide the film in place, and then we just trigger the shutter as we did. Very nice, very simple. Then we advance, lift it up, frame the next subject, close the shutter, slide down, take the new photo, and so on and so forth. Very, very convenient system, so we can switch between 4x5, 6x9, of course 4x5 inches, 6x9 centimeters, and having all these great systems. Of course, even when we we use the roll of film, we can still do all our tricks by tilting and swinging the front, the rear, and lifting all these elements. So very, very, very nice. There you go. Ah, my friends, can you see it now? This is the magic, the potential, the invitation that film photography offers. It's not just a way of taking pictures, it's a gateway to an entirely different world of creativity. A world where you're not just snapping shots around, you're crafting images with intention, one by one. And you're using your patience, and you're using the tools like these that can take you beyond the limits of the everyday. With film, you have access to formats that are truly transformative. Medium format, large format, they give you tonality, they give you details and perspectives that are simply impossible with digital cameras. These are tools that let you create photographs that breathe, that feel alive. The best part? Well, film democratizes these incredible tools. Cameras that were once reserved for professionals and studios are now sitting on the shelves, are available for a very, very reasonable amount, and they're waiting for you to bring them back to life. Using large or medium format cameras like these, you'll see the world differently. Suddenly you'll notice more things. You'll notice the little things. How light kisses the edges of a subject, how shadows stretch with the passing of time. And that process makes you appreciate every frame because you have more time to observe it. And so every second of the creative moment becomes really pleasurable and important. And when you add black and white film, you make creative choices that are genuine and authentic. You don't just shoot in color and then convert in black and white. You use real black and white because of its own beauty. And you learn to understand how it works. So, if you've been wondering why film is more relevant than ever in 2024, this is why. It connects us to the heart of photography. It's tactile, it's soulful, and it pushes us to be better photographers. Not by snapping more, but doing what is important, but making the selection before, making every shot count. And when you step into this world of multiple formats, you discover something even greater: the ability to tell stories in a way that is truly your own. But hey, we've just scratched the surface. In the next video, we'll dive even deeper into the unique properties of film, what makes it so special, so timeless, and why it continues to inspire generations of photographers. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Now, before we wrap up, let me ask you for a quick favor. If you enjoyed this video, if it sparked even a little curiosity or excitement for machines like this, for example, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us grow this beautiful community of film enthusiasts, and it means the world to me. Until then, grab your camera, load up a roll of film, and go create something you'll fall in love with. I'm here cheering for you every step of the way. Grazie mille for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!